to be great, you have to be willing to be good, but to be good, you have to be willing to be bad. And so you have to start. And, that was something we were talking about there too, is oftentimes, no, you're probably not going to be the best when you start, but that's part of the path and that's completely okay.
I'm Junaid Ahmed, host of Hacks and Hobbies podcast and a digital presence advisor at HumbleZone. This episode is brought to you by Home Studio Mastery. I launched a consultation and course program to help podcasters and course creators to create a space in their homes that'll reduce the friction of creating content and appearing their best when showing up on camera. The pandemic gave us a lot of issues, but this one is here to stay. We're now so much closer to our audience thanks to video becoming more popular and affordable. I help guide folks who want to create Hollywood-worthy studios to not only capture great content, but also build more confidence, more authority, and be more comfortable in front of the camera. If I can do it, you can too. And with my help, you can do it faster. So if you'd like to learn more, visit homestudiomastery.com and how you too can create a home studio that brings out your personality, professionalism, and possibilities. Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. We're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around.
In this episode, we talk to a successful entrepreneur about his journey from making poor decisions and serving time in prison to discovering his passion for technology and website design. He shares his ups and downs, how he navigated through life setbacks, and how he turned his passion into a successful business. Get ready to be inspired and learn valuable lessons from his journey. Andy, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast.
No, honored to be here. It's been a fun ride. It's been fun, I would say, growing together, if I could be so bold. I think we've, over the last couple of years, just made personal, professional strides in different ways together. And like your Home Studio Mastery course, for anyone out there, it's amazing. It has definitely leveled up my online presence. And I've had people comment on it or even ask me for tips. So I'm like echoing the tips of the value you've delivered for me. So thank you.
Appreciate that, Andy. That really means a lot coming from you because, like you said, we've grown together. We've seen so many changes in our own journeys, like that person climbing up the steps and falling off on into the trampoline and jumping, bouncing back up. That is the way entrepreneurship is. So as we took this journey of bouncing, of elevating, of feeling depressed or feeling down, there's lots of ups and downs. There's a specific, more beautiful term that I can't remember right now, but let's take a walk down memory lane and rediscover your origin story. Because I know, and we all know, the journey is long, and I'm sure there are a few stories in there that's going to bring out your essence and why you do the things that you do. So let's get started, man. Where did it all begin?
All began. It was a dark summer night. No, I'm kidding. 1982. I would say an origin story. I think coming just out of what some may or may not know, coming out of high school, I was a little wild child back then and got in trouble. So my senior year, I went to prison. I made some mistakes, very poor decisions. Probably all of us at 18 made some poor decisions. I just happened to get caught or made them too many times. But I got in trouble and did the things I did. And so when most of my friends were going to quote prom and things like that, I was serving a 2-year sentence. I was discharged in 10 months for good behavior. But that kind of, when you think about like your origin story, my life took a pivot. At the time, it felt like it was a brick wall and things over. But looking back, it was the best thing to happen to me. I think sometimes in life, when you're in a storm, you don't know, the rainbow can't be revealed until the storm's behind you. And I did not know that at the time. But looking back, that allowed me to pivot my life path in a very different way, a completely different way, if you will, versus where I was headed. And so I worked my way up in the restaurant industry, starting as a kitchen help from sushi chef and onward, got into management. And you start thinking like technology in the world and how we've met in those ecosystems. Working at a family-owned restaurant, you're the everything guy, right? You don't have the infrastructure like a corporate business has. And so I learned like Photoshop and made menus in
Mm,
it, and learned how to make our website, because I felt like our website was being held hostage.
yeah.
Not like they wouldn't let us have access, but the amount it cost to make an update, whether it was one word or a whole section, I just
Mm,
didn't feel right. So I started dabbling, and the bug hit. And I'm like, I think I can figure this out. And talking to the owner, and he was like, if you believe in it, I believe in you. And
yeah.
rebuilt a company website. And that's where it started clicking. I'm like, I like this kind of tech stuff. I, coming from being a sushi chef, a hibachi chef, I've always worked in front of people. So even though I was a kitchen worker, they're always publicly facing. So there's customer interaction and service because you're in the front. But then getting into management and leadership roles and learning about technology and point of sale systems and things of that nature, and getting into website design and even just Photoshop building, it created this parallel world. And so unfortunately, you talk about the roads having backwards and forward pivots or pitfalls. And this gentleman was a great mentor of mine. I worked with him for 6 years. He gave me my shot. So by no means, when I talk about the fact that we had a day where I got fired, I don't want that to diminish or tarnish what the man did for me by any means, because I'm focusing on the good, not the. One of my regionals later on said, you just had a bad breakup. He's like, you had a good relationship. You worked 6 years ago. And I'm like, that's so true. So don't tarnish that. But trying to transition from partner to employee, we had some differences, and that resulted in I got let go, and my heart was devastated. I can remember my vision for life going to prison. My vision for life at that time, my later 20s, completely changed. I was like, what the heck? Like everything I thought I was doing is now gone, pulled away. Yeah, I cried that day. I probably cried more than just that day. But re-entering the world took some time off. I got into a little bit of social media management at the time. Blessing in disguise. During that quote unemployment, me and my wife got married. My mother passed away from cancer, and not that was a quote a blessing, but to have the time available to just deal and process. There were some things that I wouldn't have predicted going through, that looking back didn't seem like it was awesome, but looking back, I'm like, that was a grace period to actually pause in life. Went back to work in a corporate world with restaurants, but always had that bug itch about website design. So I started social media management, website design, and doing WordPress. Everyone probably has heard of WordPress, right? It's like 25% of the world.
Oh, yeah.
And like any business, went wide and was building websites for like pest control, construction, martial arts, e-commerce, carpet cleaning. I was all over the place. There was no niche except the WordPress. That was the niche. But my wife got sick with liver cirrhosis, and I had to make a call. I could take care of her and do one of two things, and working corporate, it had insurance and other things, and there's more of a guarantee. So I had to make and it was a tough call, but I had to, a business I spent 2 years building, pause it or close it per se, and having to have those phone calls. I had 10 active management clients, and those weren't fun phone calls, but I told them I wanted to offboard them successfully, whether they felt they could manage it themselves or find someone to help. Because, and maybe this is the hospitality guys, like if I ever see you public, I don't want to feel like I have to duck. I don't want to be like, oh God, there's such and such. And I want to be able to be like, shake your hand ethically that life just had a curveball. And we were able to do that. It took 30, 45 days of slowly transitioning. But my wife got better, grace of God. She is on no medication for her liver. No transplant was needed, which we originally were told that. So a lot of miracles. And then the world of funnels started coming live. I think that was a new thing back then. This is probably around the time we might have met a few years ago. And I'm like, I understood the concept of website design, had it designed and marketed with Photoshop, with menus, and did a little social media management. So those pillars were there. And so when I started learning about funnels, I'm like, I'm going to figure this thing out, and learning how those work, how they're more binary, where it's yes or no to move forward, and websites are choose your own adventure, pick your journey. And first wrote a book about hospitality and restaurants, and built a funnel, made some assets and guides, had minor success within that, but it was a cool course of writing a book and becoming self-published and all the things you learn in that. But then I realized I wanted to help others learn how funnels and things work. So I think I could teach this. I've pretty good at taking the chaos and making it streamlined and simplified. And so started coaching others how to do it. And then that led into, like any business, oftentimes you quote unquote can resell services or solutions from others. Very rarely, like even in agencies, they're using other people's platforms to build things out. Found another platform that allowed me to have a little bit of ownership where I don't need everyone's individual logins. I can have a higher level. And so put together a service solution, reselling a packaged software, but more niche to a certain genre, you start learning things because in the back went really wide with WordPress. And then I
Yeah.
kind of figured it out where I was doing different templates for
Mhm.
everybody. I'm like, tell me one you like. And I'd have to learn how it worked. Such a learning curve. And looking
Yes.
back, that's so dumb, but you don't know until you go through it. Later, I feel like I found one that I could make look like anything. Fast forward to today with the platform that we use, you piecemeal different technologies together to make a unique offer solution. And then even recently have pivoted its whole messaging to be a lot more geared to going, what do people, when I say what do people really need, it's the market I'm trying to serve. Everything that we have is solving solutions. And so where I see the value that I can help people need is a little bit more niche to others. You buy a phone because you need to communicate, but guess what? You probably need a phone case. You need a screen protector.
Yeah.
Everything you buy, I don't want to be shirtless on a video. I have a shirt. Like these are problems, big or small.
You build an ecosystem around the service.
And so flash forward today, we now have a sololink.io, and it's really trying to streamline what I think is a most simplified approach to starting with a connection with an individual. And it can be scaled out to what you need on a higher, let me say the F16 of all the bells and whistles versus just getting started with building lists, making connections, and growing your network. And so it's really refining things down to that level for that specific need. That's kind of maybe the quick version. I don't know if there's some of that stuff we can go. I can definitely go deep in some of it if we want. I'm a glass house, so ask me anything.
No, man, that was excellent. I liked all of that because it helps me see how you work. It helps me see what inspires you, what pulls you into this new world, and who pushed you in those directions or what pulled you in, kind of thing. What's inspiring you? How's that environment affecting what you do with it? And there's always a problem that you're looking to solve, a problem that you're looking to make better and create in such a way that, okay, this is a good problem we had. I know there's a solution and I'm going to go find it. So that challenge that ignites in our mind, it's what inspires us to go and learn the technologies, learn the solutions that we come up with. Einstein says that you cannot solve a problem from the state of mind that you started it with or you came up with.
You have to be expanded, right? And a lot of times where a good part of it or portions of it come is, I say, betting on yourself and not always having all the answers to the problem, but knowing you can figure it out as you go along. My first WordPress website I sold, I didn't actually know the how. I knew the could. I'd researched enough to go, oh, there's themes and templates. But had I ever really built one on that platform when I went to sell one?
No. No, that's really powerful. And it's these solutions that we're able to create that people see and wait, you can do that? I've needed that for so long. Oh, really? Let's have a conversation. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. If you're hungry, you go. And I think, and if you notice a few times I mentioned you hear it all the time, you got to niche down, but really it's getting more clear on who you serve and how you serve them. Because who might have multiple hows of what they need and how you do it. Because like a restaurant, coming from the restaurant world, I might have the same equipment as multiple other concepts, but produce a completely different cuisine than the other concepts.
Yeah.
So it's figuring out who and how you want to serve them in the way that's unique to you.
Yeah, no, 100%. And then it was good to see that you found a solution. You clarified for even yourself as we're going through these journeys, we grow and we figure out, okay, that was a good, in hindsight, that was great. That happened, right? I felt like I was going through the storm. You don't know where you're going to come out, if it's going to be South Pole or North Pole. But eventually when you do get out, you're like, oh, wow, I am for the better. It's almost like the cocoon. The worm might be thinking, what am I stuck in this hole for? What is going on? Why can't I do what I was doing? It's because there's growth happening.
Yeah, it's hard to see it when you're in the middle of it. And I think our life is going to be filled with those moments
all the time.
And if you right now feel like things are in chaos, you're probably in that moment. But later there'll be a time you look back and go, oh, that doesn't make it necessarily easy in the moment. I'm not saying like, oh, that makes it all easy. I'm not going that far.
No.
But oftentimes when you look back, you're like, okay, that makes complete sense now. And I wouldn't have going to prison, would not have wished for it. But looking
Right.
back, so awesome that
Yeah.
I went through that, because I would have done something worse and gotten more time had I not had something correct my path for me.
Yeah.
Or when my mom passed away, just getting fired at first, I'm like, my whole life's over. The beginning, not life, but like my whole career vision, like I
Yeah.
had everything
It's
figured out, gone.
it's all shattered. Yeah.
But I'm like, but I got married. My mom, when she passed, like I had this time and this margin that I would not have necessarily had I not had that gap occur. And so
Yeah.
there's these moments where you're like, wow, okay, now this kind of makes sense.
Yeah. Because when you are busy at work, you're not able to pay attention to what's happening at home.
You get to,
Right.
you're busy, right? It's life.
So crazy. Man, I love the journey. I love what motivated you, inspired you, and how people around you resonated with the solutions that you brought. They gave you chances. They're like, oh, yes, let's go ahead. And if you want to, yes, do it. Right. We need those cheerleaders. We need those people that are supporting us from all sides. Sometimes it's just one other person. Yes, we have the drive in us, and that's why we're entrepreneurs. We have the drive in us, but we just need one more person to say, you're on the right path. I'm here in your corner.
I agree.
So
Mentors, yeah, or belief, like you're saying.
Yeah.
When I got my job, when I got out of prison, I'd worked there for a few months before I went away, and I was not the best employee. Let's just be completely clear. I was like 18 and knew it all.
Yeah.
Forgot it all at 23. It's weird. I'm trying to remember it now. But I remember asking, like, why did you give me my job back? Because they gave me my job back when I got out.
Wow.
And I even went there before I got home. Like I got picked up 3 hours away, was riding back with my parents. And I was like, they took me to the mall to get a different set of clothes. And I went straight there and I was like, I need a job, because I had a plan. And they're like, well, what's it like to be free? What's it like to be out? What have you been doing? I was like, I've been out 4 hours. I need a job. I've got to stay busy. Don't fall into idle time. And, but I worked there for 5 years. The only answer I ever got is, when you have children, you'll know. We don't have children yet. So I still like, and the funny joke, I don't know, but I think he just, like you said, believed, saw potential, and gave me a shot.
Yeah. No, that is so true. I just rewatched Deadpool 2, and in it, his wife or his girlfriend's children are the future. Right. And he didn't know that for a long time. And then he was trying to save this child who had this firepower. Right. It was just interesting because, yes, they do change the way you think, because now you've got an extra person to take care of that are dependent on you from 0 to 5 years old. They don't know how to eat. And I have a 4-month-old, so I know, like, it's fresh in my mind.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. By the time this episode releases, I'm not sure how old he's going to be, but currently in October,
4
he's 4
years. No, sorry. Titanic memes.
Oh man, I love it. It's been really awesome to watch you grow, be in that camaraderie, be in that group where we're sharing each other's journeys. And I was like, I haven't talked to Andy in a one-on-one fashion, and the reason I love podcasting is because we get to go deep and learn something that we probably didn't know about each other. So thank you for that.
Thanks for having me. And if anyone listens and has questions, by all means can reach out. Like I said, I don't know it all, but I'll tell you anything I do know. Is that fair enough?
Absolutely. 100%. So we're going to take a quick break, Andy. And then when we get back, you're going to share 3 hacks to take away for the audience. Okay. Because as you've learned through time and time again, creating your amazing product, the digital business card system with SoloLink, there's a lot of things that go into building a business like that. And I'm sure folks listening to it, the episode might be thinking, wait, how can I create a system, or how can I launch a business that's going to do this and that? So I'm sure there's a lot of tips you've got to share with us. So we can take a quick break and we'll be right back.
I'm Junaid Ahmed, host of Hacks and Hobbies podcast, and a digital presence advisor at HumbleZone. This episode is brought to you by Home Studio Mastery. I launched a consultation and course program to help podcasters and course creators to create a space in their homes that'll reduce the friction of creating content and appearing their best when showing up on camera. The pandemic gave us a lot of issues, but this one is here to stay. We're now so much closer to our audience thanks to video becoming more popular and affordable. I help guide folks who want to create Hollywood-worthy studios to not only capture great content, but also build more confidence, more authority, and be more comfortable in front of the camera. If I can do it, you can too. And with my help, you can do it faster. So if you'd like to learn more, visit homestudiomastery.com and how you too can create a home studio that brings out your personality, professionalism, and possibilities.
Guys, welcome back. We've been talking with Andy Griffith. Fun conversations. We talked about some cool things like being a sushi chef and how Andy said, hey, don't bother making the rice because that's the hardest part. You can go to a sushi bar and pick up some rice. And that's not one of the hacks he's going to share.
Yeah, that's your number one hack. Buy the rice, skip the hard part. Then at home you can attempt the rolling.
I like that because you're saying this and it applies to a lot of the things. People buy things because they're trying to get over that hard part. So that is a really good first hack. Walk us through some other ones.
Let's see. Yeah. So these are all going to be chef hacks. No, I'm teasing. No, one thing we did, we're talking about that. You're talking about, what was it, Tim Grover? And he talked about this, but unbeknownst, and he by all means gets the credit. He works with just the greats, but to be great, you have to be willing to be good, but to be good, you have to be willing to be bad. And so you have to start. And that was something we were talking about there too, is oftentimes, no, you're probably not going to be the best when you start, but that's part of the path. And that's completely okay.
Yeah. It's part of the journey, right? The only way you get to the finish line is by starting. Not just only if you had portals and we had the magic ring, and even then Doctor Strange took a while to figure out the portaling.
I'll get to the tips. I'll make one more anecdote on that too. I recently ran a Spartan race, never done that before in my life. I'm not like I have this year become more of a fitness, I don't know if enthusiast, that might be too strong of a word, but conscious and active. And it started with $100 bet between brother-in-laws.
Enthusiast, a fitness amateur. How about that?
Probably, right? But we made a side bet between brother-in-laws for $100, and then that led to entering a Spartan race when that thing ended. So it's just one thing led to another, the journey. Nice. But running my first race, never done a 5K ever. I'm not a runner, and went to Colorado, 6,000 elevation above my normal. So I'm even out of my oxygen range. So it wasn't adapted.
Yeah.
But when I ran the race, I learned a few things. So I'm running another one in a couple months. But I know what I'm going to do different because I went through the one and had some learning experiences. I wasn't the best. And I'm like, oh, but I know where I'm weak at. And I know how I'll adjust my strategy because I was willing to just go for it. So
I love it.
All right.
See, you got to get started to know what to avoid. Experienced beekeepers have a huge list of what not to do.
Yeah, you're like in management, when I ran restaurants, you teach a new manager and they go, you make it look so easy. And I'm like, dude, I'm 5 years ahead of you. There's things I've learned how to handle situations because I've learned how not to. Because usually you know what to do because you did what you shouldn't have done. You've learned what not. I made plenty of mistakes my first year. So 3 tips, right? 3 tips. One of them, this, I don't know, this is, I'm going to call it a hack or a tip. Think of your domain names. And this is if you have children, because we talked about children earlier. This is digital real estate. .coms are getting more and more harder to find. This is more just a side thing for the future and the next generation. Buy your kid's domain name as a .com if it's available. It may not be, but if it is, think about what 10 to 15 years from now, if that name would be, that real estate to have their name.com. Be a pretty cool gift because the world's only going to continue to get more digital. And that'd be, that's just something I always think 10 years from now, will there be any more good .coms left? I don't know.
So good. So good.
AndyGriffith.com was taken. If y'all didn't know, there was a show before my era. So I had to get, I am Andy Griffith, but my wife's name, not that we've built anything necessarily on it, but I was like, it's just good to have. So that's just digital real estate tip, I guess. Thinking about entrepreneurship, if you are starting a business or thinking of starting a business, well, I think Alex Hormozy said once, don't worry about solving problems you don't have yet, because you can spend so much time going, what if, and not get started. But
Yes.
really, it doesn't take but a few $100 to get started, guys. There's plenty of platforms, whether, it's mine or others. It'd be pompous to say one's the best. You got to find what's the best for you and what your unique needs are. And maybe you want a higher end platform, but where you're at in your business isn't in the budget for it yet. But that shouldn't stop you from starting on a lower entry point to work your way up to the Taj Mahal of things that you want in your business.
Yeah.
That same concept goes to having staff and having overhead. Like, you may want to have a whole team behiand you, but when you start, it's probably going to be you. So a couple $100, you're buying a domain for $10 or $15, a branded email account from like G Suite for $6, and then figuring out some sort of a platform to build your online brand in could be anywhere from $20 to $100 a month ballpark. So that's why I say when I say a couple $100, if you want to get legit as an LLC, go to secretaryofstate.gov and file an LLC for usually the states are like $50 to $100. You can do it after you made some cash flow and use that to actually legitimize yourself. That creates a barrier. So people aren't doing business with you. They're doing business with your entity. So it creates a barrier between you as protection.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was maybe sub tips to one main tip, but to get started.
It's
like the Everest or the summit. You might see the peak, but what's the first summit to get to?
Yeah.
And just get going and you'll figure stuff out. You'll go down wrong turns. You'll come back. That'd probably be my second tip. It doesn't take thousands of dollars to start.
Yeah.
And you'll grow as you go.
Absolutely. I
think the third quote unquote tip, it ties into that a little bit. It's sell before you're ready. You may not have the whole entire framework made, but you can bet on your future self. We mentioned this earlier. And start selling the solution. And probably what that means in the beginning, you're going to do more work to solve it, but you're getting paid to learn. If you think about it, like,
absolutely,
ethically deliver on what you promised, but instead of I've got to figure it all out and then offer it, be like, I believe I can figure it out. I got a loose enough understanding. I bet on myself. Start selling your solution, and you'll figure out how to streamline and systemize it better over time. But you won't figure that out. I'll tell you what, plans go perfect on paper until you actually apply them, and then you find this whole. Janae, have you ever been through that where you're like, you've got it all mapped out, get started, and you're
all
like,
the time.
Didn't see that. So
all the time. I'm gonna do it my way, the perfect way, and then the client has a question that you didn't even think about. I'm like, oh, that's right. Okay, let me get back to you on that.
Let me find out on that. And then you start to see patterns, and then you can develop and streamline your system. I like to use, if you haven't noticed with my restaurant background, I always bring up food stuff. McDonald's, huge chain. We're not getting into whether you like them or not. That's not really the thing. Anybody can probably make a better hamburger than McDonald's.
Oh, yes.
For the most part, I think confidently all of us can be like, I can make a killer burger at home.
Oh, yes. Same here.
But can you do the system and process for how they deliver it at the price points they do to be profitable?
Exactly. That's where the big money is at, right? And anybody can get to six figures easily.
It's just figuring out your system and process, and you'll refine it over time. Do you think what they've done today is what they did in the 50s? Or I'm not sure I think they started in the 50s, but they've refined and evolved. Your business will refine and evolve. And so it's just, I'd say that third step, sell before you're ready. It's a little scary, but here's what it usually is. It's the paradox of knowledge and anxiety, where usually when your knowledge is low, your anxiety is high, fear, tension, uncertainty. But as you apply and take steps moving forward, you're going to grow your knowledge and your anxiety goes down.
Yes.
But then guess what? Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. It's that first action. It's that first interaction from your customers, from the people that trust you, from the people that are going to buy from you, that reduces that anxiety, because you took the effort, you took the time to put that solution out.
It's when we first launched our own solution as a service, we didn't have any guides or how-tos, and we just created a page and started selling.
Yeah.
And we're like, we'll build that on the back end. And we were actually able to monetize and get cash flow positive in the first month. Praise God. But betting on ourselves of knowing where we were going. And then over time have built back in things to serve. And then you start, like you talked about, your clients ask questions. You start to realize, oh, this is what, sometimes what you think they want and what they really want can be a little bit different.
Yeah. It's so important to know what the client actually wants and not waste the time on building a solution that you think the client wants.
And so it's almost like that sweat equity where maybe in the front end, you're not getting paid as much as you want to maybe charge because you're learning, figuring it out, but you're also getting paid to learn as you go along. And then you can use those things, as you probably heard before, traded off for testimonials. But some can say work for free. I'm a big advocate, charge something, because then it's a vested interest, whether it's low or not. I'm not saying those that say work for free are necessarily wrong, but when someone's not paying for it, they're not going to pay as much attention, in my opinion. Where if they pay some, there's a little bit of vested nature on their side. It's an innovation for you as well, because here's the fun thing. Here's another tip. Here's a bonus tip that I'm thinking about. We're all trying to get to 10. 6 plus 4 is 10. 5 plus 5 is 10. 7 plus 3 is 10. There's multiple ways to get there. And usually who you follow has the way that got them there, and they're going to teach what got them there. But there might be alternative routes that does the same thing. And depending where you're at in your learning curve and skill sets, some of us are gifted and others, missing pieces are different for each of us. And sometimes it's that one missing piece that then connects all of it to get you to your quote unquote 10. So
I love that. That was so cool. Recently, I was watching this interview between Steve Harvey and Gary Vee. This is the famous one when Steve Harvey asked him, hey, tell me a book, Gary, that people can read. And Gary's, let me spell it for you. It's Gogle. Because information is so readily available. But what Gary said is, look into what lights you up in doing. What's your passion? Are you somebody that makes really good pumpkin pies? Or in my audience, it's probably sweet potato pies. So are you one that makes really good sweet potato pies? Sure, you might have 50 people on Instagram, 100 people on Facebook. Just put out a post. Hey, y'all know me. I'm taking orders for my famous sweet potato pies. It's $9. Send me a message and I'll get one ready for you. Easiest thing. You already love what you do. You're putting in, if you have a full-time job, but if you got those orders coming in, are you going to stay up watching Netflix, or are you going to be baking that cake?
You can bake the cake, man.
You can probably bake the cake because you got the orders. And that's how you got started. I'm like, dude, that is so, I'm going to have to use this in an episode.
Like you're even talking about too, like with the fact of Google, do you think I knew how to build my first WordPress website, or did I have to watch videos and learn things? I'll tell you a scary moment in my life. I did something one night that it was a person's e-commerce website up and running. It's a live e-commerce got used. I did something, I was playing in a little bit of the area I probably shouldn't have been playing in, trying to expand my knowledge or do something cool. And I turned every pixel on their site every picture to 1 by 1 pixel. It looked like pepper. And I didn't know how to fix it. I did not know how to fix it. That was a very long night, outsourced to someone, beauty of the internet, Upwork and Fiverr and places like that. But I found someone who fixed it by morning time. $25, but
oh man.
But yeah, that's part of the journey, right?
It is. I was running my home studio mastery site, and I did something on another platform. I'm like, why is my site not working? I'm like, why is it down? Because I changed something in the DNS where it started pointing to another server where I hadn't set up everything. So I'm like, you're going to make mistakes, and it's okay. It's human to make mistakes. You're not going to compare a baby trying to dance versus a 5-year-old or a teenager, because they all have different levels of experience. You can see that. And that's how we are too.
I like that baby analogy. Yeah, you wouldn't compare. You expect the mistakes, right?
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
not, and so go in that with, but here's the fun thing, like a childlike wonder, be as brave as a kid with a Batman cape on, right?
Yes.
So the mistakes are coming, but your belief is unfailing.
It is.
And
Man,
talking on Google, one note I wanted to make was,
of course.
is because information's out there, right? It's not lack of information that we have. And figuring out what you're good at or what you want to be quote unquote specialized in, people pay not for access to information because it's out there. It's all out there. It's the organized application of the information to be delivered in a structured way.
Yes.
So sometimes it's just organizing things in a methodical way to give to them so they don't have to figure out and do all the finding because you've done all that. So it's not that
Mhm.
it's out there, but it's the organized structure and application to deliver it to them.
You're so right. I've been reading the book by Daniel Priestley called Oversubscribed, and he said the information is everywhere. People will pay for implementation because they can get the information for free. So it's
Right.
how you implement it, and you've done exactly that with Solo Link. We're gonna jump into some questions.
Okay.
Let's do this. What is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
When I was a teenager, I played guitar. That was cool. Long hair. There's photos
Mhm.
floating around everywhere. I wish I learned how to play the piano. Not that I don't wish about the guitar. Like I still like
Sure.
have
Yeah,
some of that, but
yeah.
when I hear piano, I'm like, it's just a beautiful instrument that I'm like, man. And sometimes I wonder, should I try to give time now? It's about picking your time.
Picking time and what you do.
But yeah, to me, balance is a myth. It's finding harmony. What's harmony for your life is going to be different than others, but things are harmonic for you. But playing the piano was a hobby that when I was younger, you think you don't have time, but you had all the time in the world. I wish I would have picked up.
So true. So true. Next up, what did you want to be when you were a child?
A policeman.
A policeman.
And I and I got in trouble and went away because of policemen. But I was guilty. I did it. Don't steal, guys. Probably people are like, what was it? Do not steal cars. That was the high level of it. Maybe a separate
GTA.
episode.
You played way too much GTA, all right? That's what's up.
Yeah, that GoldenEye got me some ideas at a young age. No, but that's a whole nother sub story. But yeah, that's the highlight. That's the highlight reel.
All right. Next up, what is your favorite movie or TV show?
Oh, it's hard to pick favorites.
I know because I see 4 different movies in your background right now.
Yeah, my favorite characters. I love Star Wars and Marvel. I'll tell you what, a series that my wife, which is interesting, she didn't have television growing up, and her family, they just didn't have TV growing up. And to me, I'm like, that's crazy. I had it in my room with HBO. This is weird. But she introduced me to a show, and we bought the DVD set, and I really enjoy it, called Firefly. If you're into kind
Oh
of
my God, it is so good.
and it's a one season wonder. It's probably so good because there's only one season.
Do you know, I recently discovered why it got canceled.
Please elaborate.
So when they shot the whole show and it was supposed to air, it aired out of order.
That's what she told me, that the stories didn't match up. They
didn't match up because they aired all of the episodes out of order. And they're like, what the heck? Why are people watching this? Because you got the stories all wrong.
It's not funny because what it could have been, but Firefly, you can get it like, we have like vintage stocks here. They're like a used resale shop there, but $7. It's a great series.
Yeah, it's like a great series.
It's a country sci-fi without lightsabers in the Force.
Or aliens.
Or aliens.
Right? There's no aliens. I was like, wait, how come there are no aliens? It's really weird.
Humans everywhere, right?
Exactly.
It's cool. It's a good
one. Speaking Chinese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was after the war. Now people are like, what war? After the Great War. Open hook.
Gotta go watch it. Open hook. Go get it. Next up, what movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Oh, if I got to play a character in it?
You get to play a character in a movie.
I would love, we talk about things ending where they leave you wanting more, but Iron Man is my favorite character. Yeah. I would want to be a supporting role because Robert Downey crushed that role. So
there's no.
If he were to ever come back and needed some sort of supporting type role to mirror part of that would be an epic thing. And
That
with the
would be so
multiverse, it might come. Who knows, right?
You never
But
know.
I think they ended that series so well. Too. Like that was
They
it's
did.
sad, but it was like
It's such a good closure. Like you can't make this shit up. It was just really well done.
because it started with kicked off because that was a risk thing when Iron Man 1st came out, and then it killed it.
Yeah.
But it was a beautiful ending. But yeah, if they pull some sort of multiverse reboot, that'd be a cool thing to just be like, you know, this is awesome. Even if I get crushed by the donut he sat in eating, like, whatever.
I mean, they do have Wakanda Forever coming pretty soon, and they're introducing a new character. And by the time this episode airs, we probably know already. It's Ironheart, and there's some inkling to Iron Man or something around that. So I'm not sure. I don't know the whole story, but I am pretty excited for the next phase. Because I think phase 4 is closed with Wakanda Forever, because we're still in the after the
like transition period, or
the transition, like the after the earthquake. What is it? The aftershocks. We're still in the aftershocks of the snap and
trying to
passing
connect
of
the next lineage. Yeah, big
Exactly.
shoes to fill. Whoever's coming in on this one,
so big.
Woo!
On that note, who is your favorite superhero?
Iron Man. I keep pointing
Iron
out
Man.
Iron Man. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can explain why instead of just being like Iron Man, and they tie together. If I don't know if
They do.
this comes down video, but the reason I like Han Solo and Iron Man, and people sometimes talk about what's your alter ego that shows up when you feel in doubt. Mine's called Tone Solo. Tony Stark, Han Solo, Tone Solo. Also means one focus.
Yeah.
I've spent time thinking about this, but
Love it.
the reason I identify and like them is I've had a checkered past, wild, push the fringe, do things on the edge. But both of them, they're not really your quote normal hero archetype. They live on the fringes, do things little offbeat than everyone else. But when the time comes and their services are needed, they make the right choice, and that you can count on them to fall through and be not fall through, but fall in and follow through.
They step in to the shoes to fill that they're presented.
And so that's where I identify with them a lot, where it's like they're a little out there on the wrist, they do things to their own beat, but when the time comes, when they're truly needed, they're going to be there.
Yeah.
And handle their business.
I love that. That's so cool. All right. Last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
Ooh, if I were a board game, that's a good question. If I was a board game, I'm going to go off the cuff that I would be Clue. A lot of uncertainty and guessing along the way to figure out the story of who did it.
I love it. That's awesome. Clue. I haven't played Clue in a while, but I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah.
All right, sir. Where can the superpreneurs find you?
Find me on pretty much almost any social platform at I am Andy Griffith, whether it's on Instagram or Facebook. I am Andy Griffith. You can check out our site, sololink.io. Either which way, those are ways to connect and find out and reach me.
I love it. Thank you so much, Andy. Appreciate you. Till the next one. Have a great one.
Thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
You got it.
Thank you for listening to this Hacks and Hobbies episode. Junaid would love to hear from you, so please leave a rating or a review on Apple Podcasts. Visit hacksandhobbies.com to find additional information on the guest today, as well as the show notes.